7, 5, 3, 1. So how did this outward-going, fun-loving guy end up in a psychiatric ward for a long time? Well, this is the topic of my conversation today. I'm going to start by looking at these characters. All pugilists, fighters. Mental health, to start off with, is not about strength or moral fibre. As you can see from all of these people, they are some of the toughest individuals that are walking this planet. Very sadly, one of these people is no longer here. The reason why this slide is here is because if you look at their dialogue, the way they use speech in advance of a fight, it is all about superiority. It is an artificial way of dominance over someone else. No fighter in the lead up to a fight ever says, you know what, I'm frightened, I'm scared, I'm worried. I'm a sportsman, these people are sportsmen. One of them is no longer with us. In fact, in the UK, there are 7,000 suicides a year, 75% of which are males. The age range most at risk is between 45 and 54. Midlife, you could argue, but we have all suffered and experienced suicide in this community. And no doubt, as you go through life, you will also suffer the effects of suicide at some stage. All of these people, of course, have had a childhood, just like you, just like me. When you begin to show aptitude at something, people begin to give you a lot of affirmation. And that affirmation builds and builds throughout childhood. So you think you are something extra special. And that really, in essence, was my childhood. I came from a wonderful family, very supportive. I could play rugby. I could play rugby pretty well. In fact, on my day, I really did fancy myself. All of these people have suffered from clinical depression. Probably one of the sources has been because of the build-up of a set of beliefs that you are perhaps better than everyone else, you're most superior. And my behaviour, I would have to confess, from the age of 16 to 26, when this happened, I was 26 years old, was pretty appalling. I was impulsive, reckless, obsessive relationships, gambling. I really didn't care about anything because my foundations were built on you're special, you're brilliant, you're good. Which leads me neatly onto this. I don't like the word ego because it's overly used and it's quite difficult to fully understand. I prefer how you speak to yourself. So, as you can see, there's no surprise which bracket I fall into, and still do to a degree. You know, I'm not going to undermine all of my childhood or unpick it. I haven't got time. So I still quite rate myself. I still wear outwardly sort of expressive clothing. But until this happened, I was careering out of control. I didn't care about anyone, no sense of community. I had very few friends because I was special. I was different. I was so capable. And I wonder, as I transfer my story to you, I wonder what the dialogue is with some of you. You're all highly intelligent. No doubt your parents from a very early age, and your friends, and your wider family, have said, you know what, you're special. Oh, you've got into haberdashers, you're special. But we are just human beings. I'll get onto that later. Underneath this affirmation that I've received, I have different feelings from the feelings that I'm emitting to others. So this carefree attitude, I'm actually really quite insecure. I require affirmation. So when you feel insecure, you feel a bit anxious, nervous. So once you've stripped off your sort of newly found beliefs, there is a central part of your body. I don't want to get too sort of psychiatric about this, but this is where your true self lies. If I'm watching Antiques Roadshow one night, I might suddenly burst into tears because I am a very emotional person. I have hopes, fears, dreams, nightmares, but I was never showing it. I just presented myself as this carefree, careworn person. However, once you connect with your true self, there is peace, there is calm. You have realized who you completely are. You've stripped back the superficial and you've found yourself. Now that takes time. You could argue it takes many decades. You're just working out who you are. But once you've found it, you will know. I hope all the adults at the back, we can all find peace when we connect with the essence of us, the real us. So, the story, I'm carefree, I couldn't give a monkey's, just careering about the place, massive risk taker. And rugby at my point, at that generation, was not full-time professional. So I needed a job. And I'd trained at Cambridge. I'd 1 year at Cambridge. I barely went to a lecture. I was there to play rugby. I was there to be special. And I went for an interview at Haberdashers. And my ego, shall we call it, I went flying into that interview, absolutely nailed it. They thought, wow, who's this guy coming to Haberdashers? As soon as I got in the car, I remembered very distinctly driving out that drive thinking, you know what, that's not me. It didn't affect me initially, but I was connecting with who I really was, and I thought, oh dear, I haven't been to a lecture on teaching. I know nothing other than about rugby and cricket. So I had to carry on this impression, this act, as I arrived at the school. And for the first 2 or 3 weeks, it was okay. And then I started having to teach things that I was completely unfamiliar with. And these feelings of, I can recall them even now. The inadequacy I felt. They started getting stronger. With that came fear and anxiety. The school, because I was not teaching well, and I freely accepted I wasn't teaching well because I had no subject knowledge, the school began to offer me support. And the support intimidated me even further. So my head began to trouble itself. My anxiety became my way of doing things. I would withdraw, retreat. The fear was unbelievable. I couldn't cope with it. So the only way to cope is to pull away. So I wouldn't go to the common room. I would sit in my office. I would write down 500 lines of, I am strong, I can do this. I couldn't sleep. And you all know only too well, if you can't sleep, there's trouble ahead. I became so agitated that my weight reduced, and there was only one way, very sadly, that I was going to go. And unless you address depression and anxiety, the bottom is savage. So I had a psychotic episode whereby I can see and hear things that don't exist. I would put the television on and it would say, Metcalfe hunted by police. I felt persecuted because I'd lied, hadn't I? In my mind, I'd lied. It wasn't the true self that I presented to the school. I was in hospital for a long time. This method of treating very deep depression is called electroconvulsive therapy. The reason why I put it on this slide, it was founded in 1938, and it puts the body into a fit. And with that fit, allows a little break for the neurotransmitters. And with that, I started getting well again. And believe me, and some of you chaps and ladies will have suffered from depression yourself, the recovery is unbelievable. You are like a child again. You have to relearn things. I couldn't go into a shop. I was so frightened. But I started for the first time in many, many months noticing things. The call of a bird, the sunshine coming up in the sunrise. And everything began to wouldn't say re-emerge, but I began to realise I was literally on the wrong path. My path in life was incorrect for me. My map reading was wrong. So I started doing things what I should have done when I was your age. I started connecting with people. I started developing friendships. There's a Zulu word called Kubuntu. It means I am one because we are. We're all human beings. We seek friendship. We seek connection. I didn't think I needed it. My re-emergence from my nervous breakdown made me realise that I'm no different from you. We all have the same needs, the same feeling of wanting to be something, to have a shared identity. Rugby tours, my boys, the first team. Love fishing, that's my kid. Scout. My wife in the corner there. Without her, I'm not sure I'd be here. I'd probably be a statistic. So, can I just finish by saying this? The most important relationship in the whole of your life is the relationship you have with yourself. Thank you for listening.